Hi guys, my name is Trinity, and if you are here today, you must be here to talk about books. Today I will be doing my December wrap-up. It is a little late, and let me explain a little bit as to why. This beginning part is going to be a little chatty, so I will try and give you a timestamp for when I actually start talking about books. But if you guys have noticed, I have been gone for a little while. Part of that was due to the fact that Christmas break had come and my kid was home, and he takes up a lot of time when he's here, so we were pretty busy. He was busy, and I knew I was going to end up taking some of that time off. And then the writing bug hit. And when the writing bug hits, I usually just go with it because I never know how long it's gonna last. So I did end up writing for this last month that I have been gone. On top of all of that, if you can't tell, I am getting over a sinus infection. Slowly. I have had the sinus infection for a few days now, almost a week, and it doesn't seem to be wanting to go away. But in addition to all of that, there is something that I wanted to talk to you guys about because it'll become very apparent over the next few weeks in the next few videos that I do. But we've talked about the fact that I have ADHD, and one of the worst things about having ADHD and being a reader, or, trying to go through life, period, is hyperfixation. So every once in a while, my brain will latch onto some idea, some character, something, and I will not be able to shake it. I will not be able to stop thinking about it, and it will affect my daily life. And this is pretty apparent when you think about the fact that I write fan fiction. Ideas stick with me, characters stick with me. There are certain things that just cling on and won't let go. So let's talk about what caught my attention. I had not seen the new Star Wars movie. I'd put it off for a very particular reason. And that is because I knew if I watched them, a hyperfixation would start. Yet I let my husband talk me into it anyway, and here we are. So yes, the new hyperfixation is Kylo Ren and Rey and Star Wars. So you will see a lot of that in the next few videos just because my brain is refusing to let it go for now. However, don't let this make you think that this is all I'm going to be reading for the next year or the near future. It's just what my brain has latched onto for the time being. So altogether for 2021, I read 144 books. I'm pretty happy with that figure. In December, I read 3,269 pages, bringing my year-to-date total 66,964. That's a lot. That's a lot. So just about half of my reading this year has been physical, so that would make the other half audio because I do immersive reading and I don't read ebooks. So I'm pretty happy with that figure, actually, especially since I have ADHD. You never know when a book is or isn't going to work for you, and to be able to physically read at least half of them, I'm happy with that. And the numbers haven't changed much as far as what I read, because even though I read a lot of sci-fi this year, I still came in at 61% of my books being fantasy. Over half of those books came in at a 4-star rating. So what that tells me is I know my own tastes. I generally don't factor DNFs into this. However, the algorithm that I have put, or that I have input these numbers into, does generate a star rating based on what I've said, but still over half of them coming in at a 4-star does tell me that I know my taste pretty well. And then almost 73% of the books that I read were adult. So I do like young adult, but the numbers speak for themselves. It's only about 25% of my reading, and I'm happy with that figure too. I did make progress on quite a few series, with my series books read being at 65% of my entire reading for the year. All right, and that is enough of the chit-chatty stuff. Let's get into the books. So the first book that I read in December would be Stones of Light by Zach Argyle. Now, if you guys have not been following me for very long, you may not know that this is actually one of my favorite series. And yes, I put it into my favorite series having read the first book. Zach Argyle's writing style is very accessible. And one of the things that I absolutely love is when a author can take character and plot and write them in equal measure. I do like almost a 50-50 split. I don't mind if it leans a little one way or the other, but I love Zach Argyle's way of combining character and plot and giving us a wonderful story and great characters to latch onto. There is a character in this book that has a larger presence in this book than it did in the first book. There are some wild things happening in this book. They are not out of nowhere, but, you know, from what we know of the end of Voice of War, there are some pretty big things about to happen. And I adored this so much. I am dying to get my hands on book 3. I know it's going to be a little while, but this is definitely going to remain in my favorite series. Also, if my voice gets a little scratchy, excuse if I have to jump, because still getting over the sinus infection, so I have my coffee sitting off to the side to help me get through all of this. Next, I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This is a young adult thriller, and I actually thought this was quite good. I gave it 4 stars. This is the story of an investigation turned obsession. Pretty and popular high school senior Andy Bell was murdered by her boyfriend, Sal Singh, who then killed himself. It was all anyone could talk about, and 5 years later, Pip sees how tragedy still haunts her town. Now, a senior herself, Pip decides to re-examine the closed case for her final project, at first just to cast doubt on the original investigation, but soon she discovers a trail of dark secrets that might actually prove Sal innocent. And the line between past and present begins to blur. Someone in Fairview doesn't want Pip digging around for answers, and now her own life might be in danger. This was an absolutely fun, dark read. I also want to put dark onto that fun tag there, because while I thoroughly enjoyed this, there are some really dark things that happen, but I loved following Pip's story and how this story itself unfolded. It was really, really interesting. Now, I listened to the audio alongside reading this, so immersive reading, and I thought that experience was quite phenomenal because there are different voices for some of the mixed media that is in here, and it added to the experience quite a bit. But I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I would recommend anybody picking it up if you are interested in trying your hand at young adult thriller. I finished out the Others series. I knew I needed to get it off of my list before the end of the year, and I'm sad. I'm sad that I am not going to be spending more time with Meg, but I thought the ending of this ending of this series was quite good. I loved where she ended up, and I don't want to get into a lot of detail because it is the final book of the series, but I love Meg's relationship with Simon. I think that they have an adorable relationship, and there's a lot of people, well, I say a lot, I've heard a few people talk about their relationship being toxic, but I don't get that. I honestly don't. And part of that reason is Simon acts like a puppy. He is an alpha male, but he acts like a puppy. And so I don't understand how people want to take something so very innocent and turn it into toxic. But anyway, I really like the way that this wrapped up. I felt like it ended in the way that it should. I know that there is a spin-off series, and I'm very excited to get into that this year, but I have adored this whole series. It's cute, and I do want to say that it's cute. So if you're looking for an urban fantasy and you don't like romance, I don't know that you'll like this particular one, just because it does kind of center around a romance, because there's kind of a romance. It's not, I can't even really call it a romance until the final book, but I absolutely love Anne Bishop's The Other series. I would recommend it if you like romance. I would recommend it if you like things that are cute as opposed to dark, which is weird that I thoroughly enjoy it when it's cute and not dark. But yes, definitely pick up The Other series if that sounds good. Next, I finally read Blood of Assassins by R.J. Barker. I love this series. You guys have heard me say that this is everything I wanted Assassin's Apprentice to be. Of course, I never continued with that series, but I did continue with The Wounded Kingdom. This one is just as good as the first one. Actually, I think it's a little bit better, but I really adore these. I love R.J. Barker's writing style. What can I say? What can I say that is not spoilery? Yeah, I mean, they're a little on the brutal side. They are crass sometimes, but I really love the Wounded Kingdom trilogy. And if you like dark fantasy, if you like things that are a little bit more plot heavy, get these, because I think there is a good equation to Assassin's Apprentice. However, this has a lot more action, a lot more plot, and less focus on the characters. So it's just going to depend on your particular reading taste, whether you like this one or Assassin's Apprentice better. But I do happen to like this one better because I'm a plot-driven reader. So that only makes sense. All right, so in December, one thing I tend to do, especially when I have hit all of my reading goals, is just randomly pick up things that have been on my shelf for a while. No rhyme or real reason to it, but I read The Golem and the Genie. Now, I've had this on my TBR for a long time. There's actually a new novel to this that just came out. This was so incredibly unique and weird in the greatest ways. I don't know what I expected from it, but the Golem and the Genie are essential main characters to this plot, but you follow them like they're normal people in the story, and it's so cool. It's so cool because in the very beginning, the Golem is built to be a wife to some rich person who's coming to America to earn their fortune. And it turns out he dies on the voyage over, and the golem now has to live her life normally, but she's not normal. And so she ends up encountering a genie while she is there. But it's so cool. It's so interesting. It's so very intricately interwoven, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, especially getting into it and finding out that it was fairly character heavy, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I do think I will probably pick up the next one, but this is definitely a historical tale wrapped up in a little bit of mystery, wrapped up in a little bit of fantasy. Highly, highly enjoyed it. Next, we have Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. Yes, I am a sucker for fae. Yes, I'm a sucker for romance. And I am also kind of a sucker for Naomi Novik's beautiful writing style. I know I go back and forth on whether I actually like it or not, but I think this book said, yeah, Trinity, you like Naomi Novik's writing style. It's a little on the flowery side. It's not too bad, but in this one, we have kind of a group of girls that we follow. All of their stories are different, but all of them are connected. And you get to see how these girls make their way in this world, kind of in a world that wants to put women down. But one of our main characters is captured by one of the Fae princes, and it's through some fault of her own, but only in that she garnered his attention in the first place. But it's really, really good, and it's really more about these women making their way in the world when the world has kind of failed them. So I highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it. This would also be my fairy tale-esque recommendation that I would like to throw out there, because I really love fairy tales, Arthurian tales, and things like that. So I would highly recommend this. Sticking with the theme of the last book, I picked up An Enchantment of Ravens. This is also fae. This is a stinking gorgeous cover. Margaret Rogerson, I like her writing like a Naomi Novik. She is a little bit flowery, but not to the point where it's excessive. And I adored this. I love stories about the fae. I love stories that kind of center around romance. Again, here I'm sounding like a broken record, but I adored this so much. This is about a girl who works for the fae. She is human, but she creates art, and the fae love art. So art is actually kind of her superpower. She is able to create art that is very honest and tells the truth of the person, but when she paints a fae prince, she tells his story in the painting, and he does not like it. The fae are unable to lie. However, she has found his weakness, and he is coming after her. So I really, really enjoyed this. Like I said, sucker for fae, sucker for romance. You guys know this. I gave it 4 stars. All right, here is where my fixation is going to come into play. How did I finish out the year? Well, I finished it out by reading all of the comics related to Kylo Ren. So that would be The Rise of Kylo Ren 1, 2, 3, and 4. And Star Wars Age of Resistance, Kylo Ren. I enjoyed them thoroughly. I think Ben Solo deserved better, and I really liked getting Kylo Ren's backstory. And like I said, I have a fixation. So it's one of those things where I just keep feeding it. And it doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. But I love learning about Kylo Ren's backstory. I love hearing all of Ben Solo's thoughts. I really liked him finding the Knights of Ren. I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed my time at the end of the year that I spent delving into the backstory of Kylo Ren. So if that's something that you guys are interested in, if you like Star Wars, I will say that the comics were quite good. All right, that is it for me today. Like, subscribe, do all the fun things, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!